record, please?
Thank you. So good morning. I think I know everyone on the call today, but just in case, I'm Marcy Sample with Washington State Gear Up, and we have our full team here today. So Wea, our director, is here, just said hello. Beth,
hello.
Buffy, and Kelly, and Annie. We also have Amy Buck helping us out today. So you don't normally see Amy in our sessions, but Amy is our admin support staff in the CAS division here, and so she is helping us with.
Oh, you accidentally muted yourself, Marcy.
I did not, because I was hands off of everything. So I don't know how much you heard, but we're all here today to help out. And I would just like to point out the lovely picture in the background for me is on the Columbia River near Skamakaway, which is near Cathlamet and Wakayakum School District. I did a great paddle out there on Sunday. It was beautiful. So right now, Beth is going to give you some housekeeping tasks to do. Go ahead, Beth.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to ask that folks rename themselves. I see that you all have your real names, which I appreciate. We don't have any goofy names, but what I would ask folks to do is in front of your name, could you put the letter C or P, depending on if you are a cohort school or a priority school. So the way you do that is you go to the participant list. You can find that by dragging your mouse to the bottom of the screen and clicking on it. And then when you see the participant list pop up, if you find your name, you hover over it, you should be able to click on it, and the option to rename yourself will pop up. And so I'm going to rename myself. Oh, I see a lot of you are doing that. That's great. That will help identify what type of model you are in, and it will help us in our breakout rooms. So if you're a priority school, you put P in front of your name, and if you're a cohort school, you put C in front of your name.
And if that method doesn't work for you, you can also hover over your picture, and there are 3 little dots, and you click on the 3 dots, and then there's an option that says rename.
Oh, that's good.
Sometimes if that participant one is hard to find, that one works a little easier.
That's a good
Zoom
trick. Looks great.
Everybody has that completed. So today we're going to talk a lot about summer planning and how we can best support our students and families during this interesting year, and especially related to credit retrieval and making up incompletes and those types of things. We are going to have 3 different practitioners share with you, Karina from Roselia, Nina from Vancouver, and Faith from Aberdeen are going to tell you about what they're doing, and then we'll end the day talking about 5th year planning steps. Beth?
Hi. Well, you guys are already the experts in Zoom, so I don't really need to go through that, those kind of objectives, but just, we'll stay muted. I just want to remind folks that when we have our breakouts, we're not going to be recording them, so you can feel free to have, open conversations. And confidentiality will be maintained, so we won't be recording those breakouts. Let's see, we do have 1 break scheduled, and then clock hours. I know the last time we had clock hours for our event, it required people to go sign into a Google Doc. It seems as if ESD 113 has changed their routine again around it. So as long as you pre-registered for the clock hours, you should be set. I will be sending in the registration log for this event to ESD 113 following the event. And so you should be set as long as you pre-enrolled. And the information is in the email that I sent last week. If you have questions, you can contact me after this event. Okay, so Marcy, do you want to?
Yeah, working on it. There we go. Do you need to talk more about this?
Nope.
Okay. All right.
So we have a couple of polls to get us started this morning. The first one is, let's just see what your mood is today. And this is my dog, Kiddo. And he's a 13-pound rescue. And he makes a lot of weird faces, especially number 9 is one of my favorites. So I'm gonna launch this poll and see how you guys are feeling. Let's see. All right.
Must be the weather. Number 4 is very popular.
So a bit of skepticism. I want to be outside. And
so Beth, is it true co-hosts can't participate in the poll?
oh, I'm sorry. Which one are you?
I'd probably go with the crowd and say I'm a 4 today. Feeling pretty good in the blue sky.
And the number 4 gets it. I think in the mornings I'm definitely hover between a 2 and a 7, and sometimes 9.
I'd say you're always a 7 in the morning, Beth.
All right, let's see.
And next up.
So regarding credit retrieval, credit recovery, we wanted to find out where you're at. What is your school doing for credit retrieval?
Can people see the poll responses like I can see the poll responses? Yes. Okay. Oh, no.
If we're a cohort school, is this just for our 10th grade students or just school in general, all our kids?
Sure.
Why don't you respond to your cohort, your 10th grade kids?
So did I see only co-hosts can actually see the polling results? Okay.
Do you see it now?
You can click stop share results at the bottom of the poll if you want everyone to see.
Stop share results.
They popped up.
So definitely majority is an online program, a little bit of free summer school, some waivers, but just as many people saying they're not really sure yet. So good. Thought hopefully today will be helpful to you then.
Okay. And then we want to know what your role is at your school in this whole process, or where do you see your role being?
Okay, what if you fall under all of those?
I think I might have allowed, no, I don't know if I allowed it to be, you could select more than one. I think I might have allowed it so you can select more than one, actually.
So really a little bit of everything, supporting after-school programs, summer programs, outreach, but still quite a bit of uncertainty, 41% not really sure. So this is a time to start having those conversations with your admin folks to see how Gear Up can help. And again, hopefully you'll leave today with some ideas about what that might look like.
Okay. All right.
Okay, do I need to close the poll or do you close the poll?
It's, I thought it was closed.
Okay,
Um,
I closed it on my screen. Okay, so as you can see, we're still figuring out some Zoom things. But thanks for those polls. That was really helpful and will help us guide the day a little bit. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time. It says 45 minutes. I don't think this is really going to take 45 minutes, but we have lots of time if needed. I'm going to talk about summer programming and credit retrieval. We'll talk a little bit about what's allowable and what isn't. We'll talk about everyone's favorite topic, supplemental funding. Annie's going to talk about summer camp. And again, we have lots of time for Q&A. So you can ask questions at any point by popping them in the chat, just typing them in there, or feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question. We're a small enough group. I think that's manageable today. For some reason, I keep losing my cursor for the screen. So what's allowable? There really is a lot that's allowable for credit retrieval, summer school, and how that can be part of your Gear Up program. Now, I know very few of you actually have that written into your program at this point. So if you do want to consider using any of your Gear Up funds for summer school, it will mean that you need to submit a work plan and budget revision form. So keep that in mind as we're going through this. But some of the things that are allowable, summer school staff. So that can be you as Gear Up coordinators. Some of you, that would mean extending your contract days. Maybe you want to hire teachers to do summer school or other staff, paraeducators or similar to help support summer school efforts. So all of that staffing would be required, assuming that the majority of the students in summer school or in that classroom of summer school would be Gear Up students. So that majority served Gear Up students is still a requirement, but we can pay for classroom teachers and other support staff for summer school that might also serve non-Gear Up students. So usually that means we need to have a conversation about what that would look like to make sure we're following that guidance, but it is definitely possible. You can also use Gear Up funds to pay summer school tuition or credit retrieval course fees. Even if they're during this academic year, we can pay for credit retrieval course fees. You can pay for site licenses for those programs. That in the poll, we saw a lot of you use Alex or Odysseyware or something similar. So we can pay for those course fees. We do like to see you prioritize them based on need. So if you're a cohort school, you might not have enough funds to say, okay, we're going to pay the tuition for everyone who needs a course for credit retrieval, but you might prioritize it to those on free or reduced lunch or that you know don't have the means to pay for the course.
Marcy, I have a question about that.
Okay, hey Diva.
Hi, so my question is, let me turn on the camera. My question is so Europe only pays for like services that have been dealt. So if you did pay for a student's tuition and then summer school comes around and they don't end up going or something, what does that look like?
Yeah, so our past practice is that we will not pay for courses that students fail. So if you're going to pay for tuition or the fee for a student and they fail the course, we don't usually reimburse that. So you want to make sure that you have the supports in place that will help the student pass that course and complete it. Thanks for asking that question.
Thank you.
And Marcy, just to follow up with that, I know in the past, years ago when we paid, we asked students to pay for the course first on their own, and then once they completed the course, our district would reimburse them. I know that would be a financial barrier for families, but is that something that could still be allowed for those that could? Because I guess our concern would be taking the risk of our district not being reimbursed for kids who don't complete it.
I think that's a district level decision about how to handle that. I mean, I think part of the issue right now is we're looking at higher numbers of students needing credit recovery than we normally do. So I'm open to creative solutions about how to make that happen. I think the main thing here for me is that we want to make sure we're supporting students in completing those courses. And so I think giving students good guidance about what they're doing, making sure that they have support in place to finish it, that's really what matters most. And I don't know that really answers your question, but I think it's worth like problem solving at the district level to see how can we best serve students in these courses.
Yeah, well, I'm at a conference. It's okay.
Do you want to just click this?
Does that help, Rosalie?
Oh, super. It did end up taking charge because my battery was dying. So, but I don't know if it's
somebody is not muted. There, Rosalie, did that answer your question or not?
It did. I think as far as the core classes, those aren't going to be an issue because our district's going to be providing the opportunity to take those. It's the elective classes that kids could take in other types of outside district virtual courses. And so I guess my concern is as much support as we would have in contacting the kids and providing, you know, support virtually, we still run the risk of them not completing it just because, you know, they're either overwhelmed or whatnot. So yes, it does answer my question though.
Okay. Is there a required end date for an online course? So maybe they don't complete it by August, but could they finish it by September when they're back in school?
I'm not sure. I'd have to research it because they're not programs that are within our district, but I'm guessing they would all have, you know, at minimum a July or August due date.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's keep talking about that. And for anyone that's considering that, let's make sure we're talking about it and talking about the options for paying for those courses and helping support them to finish. So just a cautionary note, if you do opt to pay for teacher time or staff time for sessions, we just need to monitor that closely to make sure the majority are Gear Up. But also in the event that the majority is not Gear Up, we can pay for a portion of it. So proportionately to the number of Gear Up students, we can pay for that staff time. So maybe there is a course that's 40% Gear Up and 60% non-Gear Up. It's not that we won't pay for any of that, but we'd pay for 40% of that cost or whatever the actual attendance was for that session. Any other questions about those items?
Just a related question. Is it possible to do like group incentives? I was thinking an idea of like, after I get a number of freshmen or kids to sign up, like setting a goal as a group to retrieve this number of credits and we'll do a pizza party. Because I found group incentives. I really can do the individual ones, but saying, hey, there's a potential 100 credits to get caught up here if you guys get 80 at the end. Is that something we could pay for?
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea.
So we could have a chart tracking it and all that kind of stuff.
Sort of like 4th grade when you added to the caterpillar every time somebody read a book, right? And it was a big visual on the wall. Yeah, that's a great idea, Dave. Again, you know, making sure it's in your work plan and budget, but yes, that type of incentive would be allowable. Any other questions? Okay. There we go. All right, so supplemental funding. So obviously one of the things that we've noticed this year is that most schools are underspending because we didn't have field trips. We didn't have college visits. A lot of activities were not done in person. And so some of the in-person costs were, you didn't need that money. So there is money that's underspent. So my guess is that most of you have money available to shift to summer activities or other during the school year credit retrieval support. But in the event that you have a plan that you don't have the money to spend, you can request supplemental funding this year. So your final work plan and budget revisions are due to me no later than June 30th. I would love to see the final one earlier than that, but you do have until then to submit a revision. Remember, your current year plan and funds go through August 31st. So if you have a summer plan and don't have the funds available for it, please send me an email by May 15th with a request detailing the expenditures and be as specific as possible. If it's easier for you to do that on a work plan and budget revision, you can, but really just an email saying how much money you're requesting and the details of how you would spend that. And then once I have all of those requests on May 15th, I can review those and determine what we can support. And so I would let you know probably within a week if we have the supplemental funds. I don't really know what to expect from you all about this. I don't know what the needs are financially right now. So this seemed like the most reasonable approach to just get the requests and then consider them and see what we can do. Any questions about that process? Okay. And do we have any questions?
Question
in the chat? Yes, go ahead, Anne.
Well, I can say it. So if we don't think we can meet the match, do you want us not to spend the funds, or do you just go ahead and spend the funds and be off on our match? Which way do we go?
Yeah, I think almost everyone, surprisingly, is on track to meet match or very close to meeting match. I did not expect that this year. I think we're in a position that if you want supplemental funding, we could probably say you wouldn't have to match it, depending on how much it is. But I think we could go into supplemental funding with no additional match required. So if you are struggling to meet match, please let me know and let's chat about that. And if you're not sure if you're going to meet match, I haven't checked your match lately, but we can definitely look at that and see what we can do about it. Okay. But I guess really what you wanted to know is, can I spend my money anyway? Yes, you can spend your money anyway. Does that work?
Yes, thank you.
You are welcome. All right, Annie, you're up.
All right, good morning, everyone. Well, of course, I'm so excited to talk about summer camp, especially because I feel like we have some exciting things to look forward to. So we are looking forward to camps with both Focus and Seeds this August, in-person camps. They're going to be different than the previous 2 years of camps because that's just how we're rolling. Every year we're doing something different, which is exciting and fun. And I'm glad we had the opportunity to come together. So these camps are going to be in person, but they're not going to be on a college campus, and they're not going to be overnight camps. They're going to be one day, really fun, high energy events where safety is our #1 priority. So this means that we'll come together regionally, and masks and distancing are going to be required at our camps. Any other in-person event guidelines that are put out by the state will be followed strictly. And we're going to have 50 student attendees at each event. So that's going to be a max for us, which when we previously did our in-person summer camps, we had just under 300 students. This will put us with 4 events right about 200 students. So a little bit different. but we're excited to have the opportunity to come together in person at all. So should anything change drastically with COVID or safety measures, we have the option to go virtual. So just know that that is our #1 priority, making sure folks are safe and feeling comfortable about this. But with the way things are going now, we feel pretty comfortable doing one day, no overnight in-person events. Next slide, please. Thank you. So you can see here on the slide what our dates are going to be. In the next slide, I'll show you what the regional breakout will be. But the first 2 dates are with Focus. So those will be August 10th and August 12th. August 10th at Eastmont High School and August 12th at Rogers. And then our next 2 events are going to be August 18th with Seeds at Everett and August 20th with Seeds at Wahkiakum. So our days, again, they're going to be full energy, fun-filled days from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So we'll have a morning session and an afternoon session with lunch in the middle. And students can, expect snacks upon arrival and snacks as they head out the door.
I'll just add, for those that aren't familiar with the geography, Eastmont is in Wenatchee. Am I echoing for everyone? No, okay, sorry. I don't know why. And then Rogers High School is in Spokane.
Thanks, Marcy. All right, so then regionally, this is how we are going to do the breakout. So I'll give you a minute to just look and digest, but I'll also read these off in case the font is small. So at Eastmont, we'll have Eastmont, Pateros, Mansfield, and Wilson Creek joining us. At Rogers, we'll do Rogers, Shadle Park, East and West Valley, Inchelium, Kettle Falls, Rosalia, and Davenport. At Everett High School, we'll have Everett, Blaine, Bellingham, and Federal Way. And then at Wahkiakum, we're gonna have everybody else. So we're really excited about this, and I'll talk on the next slide a little bit more about how number slots will work and things like that. Okay, so as you know, when we did in-person camp originally, we did a pretty simple breakout of how many students you have versus, in comparison to everyone else, and took that 300 student slots we had and split them up proportionally. Because we're doing these camps regionally, it's going to look a little bit different and a little bit the same. So we'll split things as proportionally as we can, but what we're really excited about is that we're going to be able to break up these student slots by student interest. So what that means is by the end of this week, you are going to receive a survey link and some flyers for camp. And we're going to ask that students complete those surveys, they're just interest surveys, by the end of April, so April 30th. Once we have student interest based on those surveys, we'll be able to break out student slots proportionally. And by the first week of May, you can expect a list of the students that completed that survey, so you know who's interested and who filled it out. You'll also receive the determined number of student slots that you have for camp and an application packet. Because these in-person events are in person and there's a lot going on right now, we will need physical signatures still from students and families. So just a heads up there on what to expect. I think we can open it up for questions now before we move forward.
Is there a target student you're looking for? Is this like kids we know are college interested, or is it just generally everyone?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's generally everyone. However, you all do know, for the most part, I think the content of Focus and Seeds. So Focus is going to be very much college knowledge based, and Seeds is going to be a social emotional experience. Both of them will have hints of the other in each, but something to keep in mind. It will ultimately be up to you which students fill those slots. So we'll make sure you have the list of students who completed that interest form. But if you had 15 students complete the interest form and you only get 10 slots, we'll leave it up for you to decide which of those 15 students will fill the 10 slots.
I think it is important to think more. I'm sorry, you guys, I don't know why that's happening. I can't fix it. When you're selecting students for Seeds, I think it is really important to think about and really both of them, but who will fully participate? So seeds can be a tough experience for some kids. So students that you know, are willing to stretch, or willing to work hard, willing to fully engage, even if it's tough. I think those are all really important considerations. For focus, I think you can also think about who are the kids who, you know, have this potential, but they're just not quite crossing that line yet and committing to post-secondary ed. So who are the students that need a little extra nudge and could benefit from this experience? I think are a great group to draw from as well. But yeah, I think the priority is who wants to be there and who will fully participate. I think that's what makes a great camp.
Absolutely. I also saw a question in the chat. Should priority schools aim for a certain age range? I would say juniors and seniors are your best bet in terms of college knowledge, and probably for seeds as well. But again, as Marcy said, who wants to be there and who do you feel is going to fully engage and take advantage of the experience? All right, any other questions before we move on? Okay, so you will get a follow-up email by the...
Is the event at Rogers Focus or Seeds?
Rogers is Focus.
Also, I had one question. Transportation, is that going to be organized by you guys or fall on us to do with our district?
That's a great question.
We haven't talked about it yet.
We haven't, but I think you can expect some follow-up around that when I email you by the end of the week. So by the end of the week, you can expect flyers for camp, that survey link, and more information on transportation. Just know that this is totally new for us, so we're still figuring out all the details as well. But I think we can probably safely make some assumptions around that. So we'll figure that out and get that info to you as soon as we can. Okay, I'm just making a note here to myself. Transportation.
Yeah. It's a really good point, Rosalie. We do have a lot of students struggling right now. Can make Seeds a great experience. Like, it can kind of be just the thing they need. But it can also make that experience really hard. And we only have one day with Seeds. So when Seeds is 3 days, it really digs into a student's well-being. It does create a pretty vulnerable situation. I don't think we've ever had a student participate in Seeds, even as hard as it is, say, oh my gosh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. Like, students leave there changed forever. I think if you have students that you might be concerned about, it's worth having a conversation with either Annie or myself to make sure those are good choices for students. So thank you for bringing that up. And there's one more question, Annie, about chaperones. So it is a one-day event. So the assumption is you would bring your students and be there for the day.
Yeah, and in fact, we need folks as team leads because we won't be having college students there. So that will be helpful for us, for folks to be with students all day. And yeah, I just want to echo all the things around social emotional stuff right now being intense. And I also know that Seeds has a really great way of navigating those situations, and being that it's only a one-day event, I'm sure that they'll go there, but not quite as intensely as some of the 3 days events. So I trust that they have a good grasp on what students need right now and things that are going on in the world. So yeah. All right, that is camp. I think we can switch gears really quick and talk about the senior exit survey. Awesome. So this is content for priority schools. You can expect a survey link for our senior exit survey by May 3rd. We did this last year and had a really great turnout because we provided swag to students upon them completing a survey. You can expect the same this year. So if you need to incentivize it to get students to complete those surveys, know that we will be sending out a little bit of Gear Up swag in return for a completed survey. So we'll get these surveys to you by May 3rd, and we would like them out to all Gear Up seniors by May 14th. The survey will be open until June 1st, and we're able to monitor submissions on the back end. So if we feel like survey responses are low from a certain school, we're able to work with you and reach out and make sure that you're aware of student completion numbers. So I think that's it for the senior exit survey. Any questions there?
I think last year we gave the survey and allowed you to give it to all your seniors instead of just Gear Up students. So that is still okay if that's an easier method, because we can match them up as Gear Up students here. So that would be allowable and maybe even helpful to you and to us.
Definitely. All right, that's it from me.
All right,
Thank you, Annie and Marcy. We are doing great on time, and so we wanted you guys to have a chance to talk to each other in some breakout rooms and then give us some feedback. And so I'm going to be breaking you guys up randomly into some rooms for this portion. And we just have, I'm going to send out a link with the questions once you get into the rooms. But this breakout really only has 2 guiding questions, and it's what do you need from Gear Up and or the WASAC staff at Gear Up to support you in your program? And then also in a dream world, if there were no restrictions on Gear Up funding, what is something that you would love to try? And then we're going to share out as a group. And so I'm going to create some rooms. And like I said, I will broadcast that link, and then we will give you and we will give you if you can't join the breakout room, if you have to pause for a minute, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Just ignore the request at the bottom of your screen and do what you need to do. But I'll broadcast the link with the questions. You guys talk, and we will give you a time warning when we're going to close the room.
Beth, do we want them to take notes?
The notes, the link will have a page where you can take notes and you can record your thoughts. We're going to have one person from the group report out your takeaways when we come back together. So I'll give you about 10 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes in the group, and then we will come back and do a little report out, and then we will have a break after that. So look to the bottom of your screen. I'm going to open up all the rooms, and you should see a prompt to join a breakout room. Do you want to pop that PowerPoint back up if you're able to?
Oh, thanks for that reminder.
Thank you. Sorry to cut folks off if I did. I meant to broadcast a warning and I accidentally closed the chat or the rooms. So I hope I didn't cut anyone's conversation too short. I hope you were able to chat with some new people who aren't part of your team. I was hoping that, great. I was hoping that one brave soul from each team might feel comfortable doing a quick share out about any takeaways, any support they identified that they would need from Gear Up or WASAC, and then any kind of big idea that they are interested in trying. We had 9 different breakout rooms. Is there a brave soul that wants to go first and do a quick report out, and then we get a break after that?
I'll go first. Oh, sorry. Did someone else want to go? I can go next.
We just appreciate your excitement, Diva.
Oh, I don't mind. Okay, so I worked with Amy from Federal Way and Nicole from Eastmont from East Wenatchee, and I don't want to mess up last names, so I'm just going to keep it to first. We talked about really a lot of great things we would like to do if we had money wasn't an issue, but the one we were going to talk about was care packages. Amy had a really cool idea just about sending them home packages maybe every 2 weeks or like once a month, just of things letting them know that they're, you know, on our mind. And she had ideas around like toothbrushes, maybe a little toothpaste, just things to say, you know, remind them of things. And we really like that idea. And then one thing we liked that you guys have done was providing those like pre-recorded college visits. And just with like attendance being an issue, I feel like we've been really able to reach a wider population because being able to show it at different times versus like going on one field trip somewhere and those who came got it and the rest didn't. So those are what we talked about. Thank you.
I can go next. I believe it was group 8. Anyone in group 8, please correct me or add on to what I have to say. But so kind of the first question was, how can Gear Up help us? Really, we kind of, our full focus is on credit recovery. Like, how do we make this happen? And a big one is just getting students engaged in credit recovery, like how to get them excited or at least wanting to do some kind of credit recovery. Like, how can we make that happen? We can certainly provide the different after school programs and stuff, but how do we actually get the students there? And kind of need some help with that. And then also looking at like the 13th year, we'll probably have more senior or 13th year seniors, and what's that going to look like for Gear Up? And then number 2, if we had no restrictions in funding, it came down to a lot of like incentives, like really getting some cool incentives, having the flexibility. Many of us use our own money to buy candy, to snacks, coffees, to incentivize the students for the different activities they do. And if we could have some funding that provides that flexibility for us. Gear Up Lounge was another one. Like, if we could have funds to create a Gear Up Lounge. Anyway, that kind of, it was a big piece around incentives and the flexibility and incentives. So anyway, that was group 8.
Faith, if you could send me an email about some of those specific incentives that aren't currently allowable, and I would like to know more about what you'd like to have in a Gear Up Lounge. If you could send that to me in an email, that would be great.
I will, Marcy. Thank you.
Jeff, you want to piggyback on that one?
Yeah, you bet. I was sentenced by group 1 to report out from our group, and our group, we were dreamers. And so we kind of jumped on question number 2 more than, or matter number 2 more than any of the others. And we raised up in the initial part of our conversation the power of relationships, the power of conversations that we've all had to rely on heavily in this remote environment, since our ability to deliver experiences has been limited. And those conversations help kids think aspirationally about what they want to do after high school and post-secondary studies and career. But also there are conversations that take place around tutoring right now, where relationship is also really important. And many of our sites have had outstanding tutors. Jerry, I know, has been one of those at his site for many years. And that has made a significant difference in the academic performance of the students who participated in those events. So the idea of having unlimited funding to hire people, to have conversations with parents and students, and also to have tutoring across the board, not just in math classes, but in a variety of different courses, would be fantastic. The final thing we talked about is thinking about the fifth year, or not the fifth year, but after high school, that year after high school, what that's going to look like. And some of us have had more conversation with students talking about taking a break year. And some of that has to do with students wanting to be financially responsible and thinking about getting kind of their house in order before taking on secondary studies. I know I've had conversations with students who, because of this COVID year, are just exhausted, almost too exhausted to think deeply about post-secondary education and feel their need to take a break. Now, that may change over the next year, the year after that, but that's where they're at emotionally. And think about what kind of financial support, scholarships could be given to keep students connected academically if they do take a break year. Maybe Jerry, you want to say more?
No, I love that idea. I think we should grab that. It's that, you know, what's wrong with offering scholarships post-graduation for kids that just want to continue, even encourage them to take a class once in a while in a community college while they're working, while they're getting themselves established, so we keep some connection with them to then help them move on to whatever study they want to do, you know, when they find themselves a little bit. The other point I make that we talked about with the tutoring and everything else is that, and I know in our program, we have to think of this as a 24/7 kind of thing, not school from 7:30 in the morning till 3 o'clock. Because the kids I deal with, they're doing things. I worked with a girl till 10 o'clock last night because she had to go to work and come home from work and work on her geometry. That's when the kids are available. That's when they need the help. So I think that's something we could look at, is how do we broaden our program, and that probably involves some more staffing in some way, but it can't just be within the box that we put them in at school.
Thank you both. I have two comments. Beth has a great considerations for taking a gap year document on our website. So Beth, if you could add that when you send out the materials for this, I think that would be really helpful. And I lost the other thing. I think there were two things, but I only remembered one as soon as yeah, Beth will probably help me here.
What are you thinking about, the template, the alumni template webpage?
No, but sure.
Well, I can follow up with you guys in an email after this, but just briefly, one idea. So Marcy presented last week with OSPI on supporting transitions for students who are graduating high school. And one idea that we had come up with, and this was more geared for students who weren't in a Gear Up school, but for the rest of the state, is realizing that school counselors can't serve graduates any longer, but we do have students who may be taking a gap year because of COVID, or maybe they're on plan B, like they started something and it didn't turn out the way they wanted. And so how do you kind of support those recent grads when maybe their plans went off the rails, like for example, like with COVID. And so we came up with this idea of having a template where we have the language, a suggested language, sort of like those family newsletters we have. So we have this language that schools could put up on a web page that would be for student alumni, and it has different resources on, like, it's not too late to build a plan. Here's how you can explore apprenticeship, 2-year, 4-year, military, all of these things. Here's scholarship links. Here's how you can come back to our school for a financial aid filing event or join us virtually. So it has all these resources for recent grads who may be still looking, because like we know that recent grads are probably not going to be like looking at OSPI or WASAC's webpage, but like they're familiar with you and your school. And so creating that sort of resource. So I can send more information about that, but that was like a no cost way to provide support and show that you care, and it's not too late, and you can provide all these messaging to students who may need some more support to get back onto a path after high school.
And we will talk more about, this was the other thing, so I did remember, we'll talk more about 5th year or 7th year, however you'd like to frame it, at our May workshop. So we will definitely be providing some additional guidance about what's coming in those years. All right, who's next?
I can go next. I think we were group 3. So if anyone wants to chime in, if I miss anything, please do. I'm starting to kind of echo other people though. The first thing though, that first question is a little bit general. And so sometimes we feel like we're searching for things to do and what to work with. And so we don't always have that exact answer of what we need support with. But some things that came to mind for us was, we thought offering the extended contracts without the possibility of match would be helpful. Virtual study sessions. So I know a couple of us have been working with Rosalie and her amazing program. But we thought, like, would it be possible for us smaller schools that don't have partnerships with those universities? Could there be something more like our virtual college sessions where, you know, it's offered to anybody or any Gear Up students, or things that's organized? That would be pretty cool. The downside of that is we did have one school say that sometimes they can have like 60 kids signed up to do the study sessions and only 12 show up. But so combining schools, and that's what we found. We've done that a little bit this year too, and we've gotten more success, because if, you know, everyone's just getting a tiny participation number, if you're, you know, connecting with several schools, that's helped get our numbers up. With the no limits of spending or anything, we kind of said the same things that we're hearing, like we just need more people. Like the kids are so overwhelmed. You know, the one-on-one time and relationships are so big right now. And so we're in, and we talked about, like, our staff is also so tapped. You know, it's been such a struggle and a hard year. The teachers that typically would do those extra things are already working so hard, teaching virtually and in person and all that. And so it's just been tough to get the resources, the amount of numbers of people needed to help those kids. And then we've talked, I must have been with mostly small schools. And so we've talked a lot about, like, even just our communities being disjointed and how we could come back. And if there was no money options or restrictions, could we offer like whole community barbecues with a guest speaker? Or I even said, like, I would love to have Seeds come and do a whole school thing, you know, for everybody when we return, just to get everybody back on, you know, into school. And some of those, I think those are the main ones we talked about.
Just a couple of comments. I think there are a lot of possibilities within existing guidance for a lot of what was just shared. So if there are some requests similar to those, I really encourage you to reach out to me to see how we can manage that. I love the idea of the virtual sessions being open to multiple schools. I think that's a brilliant idea. And I think, you know, I'll probably task Annie with figuring out how to do that. So those are great ideas, but I do hear a lot of possibility in there within existing structures. So let me know what you're thinking.
All right, who's next?
I can go for group 2.
Thank you.
As long as that's okay with group 2. We didn't actually decide. So, but I was with Rosalie, Aaron, and Kelly. And for the first question, we kind of ended up sort of deciding that most of the things that we need or want are actually related to our systems, our district, rather than WASAC or Gear Up itself. And a lot of the barriers that we run into even with our Gear Up funding are based on us having to follow the most restrictive policy. And so there are a lot of things that especially those of us from larger schools have restrictions at the district level that prevent us from actually doing things that are allowable with Gear Up funds. So that's kind of where we landed on the first question. And the second one, if there were no restrictions, our ideas varied from really, really simple things like, can we buy a van and furniture to how can we revamp our entire system so that there is no racism in our buildings, right? Like, I mean, like that kind of stuff. So the range was that huge. And so, yeah, I think we can all dream really, really big, but there are some really simple things that, you know, like everyone has been talking about, having that Gear Up like lounge space or whatever, well, we can't do that because we can't spend funds on furniture, or being able to, when things are more normal, being able to transport students more easily than we are now. So having a van or a bus or something that belongs to Gear Up and we can use whenever we want. And again, that's a thing that like varies based on larger district versus smaller district too. So Rosalie was saying it's really easy for her to get that van on even this afternoon if she needed it, you know. Those of us from larger districts, we absolutely do not have those kind of options. So things like that would be really awesome.
I'll just add to like just to echo the tutoring stuff, like if money was no object, like listening, I think, you know, we all know that building relationships with kids is key, but being able to think outside and hire people who are skilled and, you know, multiple, like lots, not just one amazing person in here, shout out to Cam. But, you know, like just being able to hire more quality tutors, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but, you know, or a way that we can train them so that we can skill them up to be that person and to be consistent would be awesome too.
Beth, how many groups did we have?
We had 9. Stephanie was just, she's in group 6. Stephanie was just echoing what everyone had said so far.
So that makes 7 that have shared. And so I was in a group and I took notes. We couldn't access your form, Beth.
Okay.
I don't know if other people were able to do that or not. So I'll share since I have the notes. Okay. I think they were super nice about what they need from WASAC because I was in the group. But they didn't. Dave does have some really good suggestions for revising the work plan and the work plan budget and revision form that we might try to attempt, although it terrifies me a little bit to make any changes at this point in the grant cycle. I'm like, we just figured out this one, but I'm open to Dave's suggestions. So we're going to follow up about that. I think one of the big challenges is how do we keep kids and families engaged at this point? So that was an area as well. And then the big dreams related to doing fun things with families, maybe a carnival style family night that'll get students and families excited to come back to school in the fall. And I felt like even though that was maybe a dream, I think there was a lot that was shared that is completely reasonable. And so Aaliyah and I are going to work on that. plan. And then food. I know that food is a big incentive. Dave talked about donuts are always a good lure, maybe even more than a college t-shirt. So how can we work within the guidance that we have and the restrictions that we get from the Department of Ed to allow more food? So I think that was the gist of what we talked about, very similar to what everyone else is talking. So by my count, that there should be one more group to go.
I think that's our group. Group 7. So we also had the same thoughts that everyone else has. We think that the support we get from Gear Up and WASAC is phenomenal. We couldn't ask for anything except for maybe a little less paperwork and a little less chasing of signatures. But other than that, we're pretty good. We didn't really have a big want, except for, I'm thinking tour bus road trip is what I'm thinking. That if we had enough budget to get to hire the people who make the college road trips, that would be, I think that would be spectacular.
We've thought about that. They're crazy expensive, but we have thought about that, like ridiculously expensive. But we have thought about it. So thanks for bringing it up, and it's good to know there's some interest in that.
Marcy, I just wanted to follow up with one of the suggestions about virtual tutoring. So one of the schools, I can't remember if it was the staff person who spoke, reached out to me about state work study students and just the limitations of the area that they lived in and not having post-secondary programs near them. And I actually reached out to Gonzaga and asked them, now that COVID has opened this new world of virtual services, could rural schools become state work study sites with Gonzaga or another university? And she said she was open to the idea in the future and seeing how they could explore being able to partner with more programs that would be hiring students solely for virtual support. And so, when I think about how many hours of my week I spend scheduling virtual tutoring and all those things, I think that's kind of one of my dream things too, would be that we could have one staff person who all they did was schedule virtual tutoring and like Erin was saying, hire high quality tutors, because sometimes people think tutoring is just sitting down with a student, but there's a skill that you have to know. And I'm sure Jerry knows that from the tutoring programs that he started, because he worked with Katie, who's one of the most amazing state work study students I've ever had. And she has tutoring skills that she has because she has that experience as a tutor, not just because, she applied for a job and now she's a great tutor. So just some positive things, hopefully, that will come in the future.
So there are many vendors who will do virtual tutoring, online tutoring. There are many out there. They track us down at every Gear Up conference and want to talk to us. So if that, and then we wouldn't have to hire this, like you pay the vendor for it. So you don't even have to find the qualified tutors. They, in theory, have already found those qualified tutors and trained them to provide that service. And if we did something like that, we could open it up to multiple schools because we could potentially be the contract holder and then offer it to you. So I would really appreciate some feedback from all of you about, do you think you could do that? Would you be interested? And how many students do you think would participate? So I'm open to that as an option for next year. I don't think we can pull it off right now by the end of this year. So if that's something you're really interested in that you think would work for your students, and then it gets around that beyond the school day and even after school hours that Jerry talked about earlier. So please send me an email. Don't do it in the chat because I won't be able to keep track of it, but send me an email about your level of interest in that.
Just like to add to that, Jerry said something really important at ours, is that he spent the last 7 months building trust.
that they have to call him and ask for help. Otherwise, he doesn't know who to give it to. And I just think that online, I mean, there's online support now. There's free programs. They can go check out Math. Khan is always there for them. But, you know, it's that trust that Jerry's built allows him to get kids to call him. And if you lose that, then once again, we have one more activity that nobody participates in. Just a thought. You might want to check with Jerry more on that. But when
really
he
good
said
point.
that, just really clicked.
Thanks for that, Anne. Yeah. All right, Beth, where are we in the, I think it's time for a break. Is that right?
It is. Thank you all for sharing, and I appreciate that. We have time for a break. If we want to stay on track, we would come back at 10:30. If people feel like they need a longer break, I can adjust the schedule, but if people feel okay, we'll just come back at 10:30 for the next part of the workshop. Okay, thank you.
Has updated our summer camp matrix. We will send that out with the materials for today. It will give you some different camp options for students that will be virtual and a few in person, but as you might expect, a lot of that information has not been updated yet, or camps have been canceled, but we have updated it so that will go out. And then the other thing I wanted to say was, it's Kelly's birthday. Last time we had Cherry's birthday. Today we have Kelly's birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Kelly.
Kelly.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Kelly.
Happy birthday, Kelly.
I have to say, Marcy sent me a text or a Teams meeting chat thing at 5:50 in the morning. Guys, that is a first, I have to say. So, that's what woke me up this morning. Thank you, everyone.
Kelly's always the first one like on in the morning, and so I'm like, I gotta get up and get on before she does today. So all right, Beth, I'm going to turn it over to you for the Practitioner Spotlights.
Thank you, Marcy, and happy birthday again, Kelly. Use that wish strategically and be specific. That's my guidance for you. Make the most of it. I think some of you might know that I have found 12 four-leaf clovers since last May. So I've been trying to use those wishes strategically. I can't tell if they are good luck or bad luck. If it's a good thing or like a bad sign that I've found them. So we'll just leave it at that. We'll pretend that they're all magical good wishes, and I'm using my power of wishes for the good of the universe. Okay, with that, we have 3 brave souls today that are going to be sharing with you how they are doing, or they plan to do, credit retrieval at their school. They you know, are all works in progress, and they are willing to share where they're at in this journey with you. And so with that, I think I'm going to pass it over to Nina to share what's going on in Vancouver.
Okay. All right, y'all just get to listen to me. I don't have any fancy slides or anything to pop up for you. So, okay, so in Vancouver, so just briefly, historically, we have spent Gear Up funds on summer credit recovery for students and paid the fee and supported in that way. However, we as staff were never really directly involved with the credit recovery, and we were just paying the student fees for it. We weren't supporting teacher pay or anything like that. And so now, in light of this year and how many students we have who are at risk for failing or have already failed, we decided we needed to do something a little bit different and more. And so, so a couple of things that we've done. So basically I went to, so we're Vancouver, so we're big, and I have 3 high schools. So we, so I went to all 3 of our high schools, and talked to our principals about, like, could we do something? Could we do something for our Gear Up students in your building and support credit recovery directly? And the answer was different in every building. So, so that was my first challenge in this process, is that every single building wanted to do something a little bit different. So, and every single building has a little bit of a different process for setting it all up, et cetera, right? So, so that has actually been my biggest challenge in this entire thing. That has been my biggest challenge, is that everything's a little bit different in each building, and it's been a little bit confusing, like, who do I actually talk to in the building to make this happen, et cetera, et cetera. So really knowing who your people are in the building, who your point people are in the building for this type of service is going to be really important. The overall, what we are doing, and I won't go into specifics for each building, but basically our district predominantly uses Odysseyware. And so that is the platform that we chose to go with. I did a budget revision so that we could directly support credit recovery. So we are using Gear Up funds to pay for the teacher to oversee the course itself. And we are only focusing on Gear Up students. So this credit recovery program is only for Gear Up students. We have our own teacher that is separate from any other teachers in the district who are leading credit recovery. So in each of our buildings, I have a teacher designee that we are paying with Gear Up funds that oversees the Odysseyware course. And then we are doing, Gear Up staff is providing support after school, in person and virtually, for we're about 6 to 7 hours per week that is just focused on that credit recovery support. So students we're hybrid right now, so we have in-person students and virtual students. So in the afternoons, today is our first day. We'll see how it goes, okay? So I'm telling you all of this. We have not practiced it at all, and I'm fully confident that today is gonna tank, okay? So, on the back end, we were able to get all of our students set up, and so, like, I am directly overseeing all of that. So nobody else at the district is doing that. I have done it all, setting all of our students up with the correct courses, communicating with our counselors to make sure we're doing all the right things, making sure that students who have multiple classes to recover are recovering the most important classes first, et cetera. So that communication with counselors is key. And just making sure that for your district, you're following whatever policy your district requires you to follow for your credit recovery program, whatever it may be, to ensure that those students actually get the credit at the end, right? So if the way ours works, if anything is set up incorrectly, or that kid doesn't end up on the right spreadsheet or something like that, they are potentially not going to receive that credit at the end of it all. So it's that this organizational piece is really, really important. And So on the days that we're providing support, we're not actually teaching class. Gear Up staff is not teaching the class. We have our designated teacher who's going to be in person with us most of the time, though not all of the time, because a bunch of their time is spent like grading assessments and standard assignments. But our Gear Up staff now has their own OdysseyWare accounts, can access all the courses, all the content. We can open up assignments for students. We can support students with any questions or anything that they're struggling on while they're working. So that's what those support sessions are intended for. So after school each day on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're offering in-person direct support to students. And that is an expectation for us. That's not just something that's optional. We set it up as an expectation that students agree to participate in at least 2 support sessions per week. So we offer in-person on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. And then 15 minutes after our in-person starts, we open up the virtual session for virtual students also. And then on Wednesdays, because we're hybrid, Wednesday is a no attendance day for students. So we're just running virtual sessions on Wednesdays. And then students can also set up individual times with their Gear Up staff if they're not able to make those after school times, say they have sports or some sort of extracurricular thing, because now sports are going again also. And so essentially, that's what our credit recovery currently looks like starting today. And one of our buildings opted not to do any credit recovery during the school year right now because they felt like it was going to be too overwhelming for students to focus on both current classes and credit recovery. So we're going to be doing a summer credit recovery for our students at that building, and probably for a week or 2 after school gets out. So we're still working on the plan for what that looks like there. But that is essentially what our current credit recovery looks like for Gear Up students specifically. I would also like to say that our district is really beefing up credit recovery for summer for all students. And historically, 9th and 10th graders in our district have not, it's not that they haven't been allowed to participate in credit recovery, they have not been encouraged. And they have not been, it has not been easy for them. And there haven't been classes or supports for those students. It's only been for 11th and 12th grade students. So, so when we did set this up, that was a key aspect of it. Everybody was saying, you're not going to get 10th graders to do this. They're not going to complete. Every time we sign 10th graders up, they don't complete. So what we're hoping we see is that by offering these in-person and virtual support sessions, that we increase the possibility that students are actually going to be successful, rather than just in the past, it has just been, oh, sure, a 10th grader wants to try a credit recovery, go ahead, sign them up. They get signed up, and then nobody ever talks to them again. They're just left onto their own devices to complete that course whenever they feel like doing it, and they never do. So, because they're not being held accountable. So we're hoping that setting up this accountability piece actually does improve the chances of students completing. So we'll see how it goes. I think that's all my main points. Oh, I did want to mention just real quick also, because somebody did mention it earlier about our focus on retrieving credits, the negativity that is associated with that. You failed, you have to fix it, right? And so we are trying really hard. I mean, bottom line, we are asking them to recover credits because they failed a class. We can't take that fact away, but just being really positive with students and really encouraging, and also it's not just you, right? Like this is more the norm right now. It's more the norm right now that a student has failed a class or is at risk of failing a class. You're not being singled out. And how awesome is it that you have these supports in place to help you be successful now, right? So anyway, that's me. I'll pass it on to the next person.
Thank you, Nina, for that. And I look forward to hearing how it progresses over the spring and summer. We have Aberdeen here to talk about their new program. Faith, welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. So I've been away from school for a couple weeks, but kind of give you the gist of what we're doing at Aberdeen High School, because credit retrieval was just, it's on all of our minds. I had actually submitted a revision to Marcy several weeks ago when we came up with the idea with the after school program, a Gear Up after school program. It's just our 10th grade students. We're a cohort school, just our 10th grade. We're very hopeful though. It's a pilot and this district is looking at us very closely because they're thinking if it works out for our 10th grade students that it's something that they may put in money into for next year. So we're very hopeful that it takes off. So the after school program, we are right now getting out of school at 2:15. It's 2:15 to 3:15 after school. Fortunately for us, we have a counselor that did an after school program some years ago, and is very passionate about the after school program. So she is coordinating it for us. So we put money aside for her to help coordinate it. She knows what needs to be done. We have certified educators in math, English, and science to help with the credit retrieval. So the students are on contracts. It's like, okay, so maybe they passed chapter 1 through 7, but they need 8, 9, and 10. So they're on contract to get a better grade in 8, 9, and 10 and pass that class. So our counselor or the coordinator is helping track that and make sure the students get those chapters done, if that makes sense. So it only just started yesterday. So we are very hopeful. It's Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. Very hopeful that this takes off. We'll see.
Hey, do you want me to add?
Jerry.
I'll say yes. I can add on first
Jerry.
day yesterday. We had 2 students show up, but we had a number of emails of kids asking how they join, how they access. Casey's getting contracts for them. And it gave me a chance yesterday to work with a student who's been very reluctant to get it. He's very, very bright. Credit to it. We worked for an hour on getting him caught up on his algebra. So we had a good start yesterday in terms of 2 students that showed up and actually did some work.
Yeah, so we do have students, like Jerry said, that are emailing. We have actually some students that we didn't even think about it, was Washington State history, that they really need that credit in Washington State history, and we're wondering if they could do it via after school program. So the students are actually, I mean, that tells us the students are actually thinking about kind of how they can use this to get back on track, which is huge. So that's good. District-wide, the district is doing a summer school. We're doing 2 sessions, A and B session, both morning and afternoon. So the students are going to be able to get 2 credits worth during the summer, which is, it's something anyway. So it's, again, that engagement piece. How do we get the students engaged and wanting to come in and get that credit? So how do we make that happen? And then next year, what the district is looking at what they call a period I. I believe I was for incentive. It's the first period of the day. It will be 45 minutes. If students are on track, they will get to sleep in and come to school late, or at least period 2 or period 1, whatever they're going to call it, after this period I. But those students that are not on track will go to their respective classes, and it will be kind of like a contract-based thing again. If there's classes that they need, that they have failed, they will get a contract for that class and work on that class during that 45-minute session. And the idea is that they can actually have as many contracts as they think that they can do. But this is, of course, on top of their actual school load too. So not sure how that looks right now, but the district is working on that period I. Just one more means in getting students some credit recovery. So that's kind of where we're at. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Faith. Yeah, that will be exciting to see how that plays out. I like that there's multiple approaches too. We have one more school that's going to share. It's Rosalia is doing during the day credit retrieval.
Beth, can Jerry jump in really?
Sure.
Can Jerry jump in really quick? Sorry.
Yeah. No, we have one more thing we're doing too. We have 2 credit retrieval classes right now, one in algebra and one in geometry A. 17 of the 29 kids in algebra are sophomores. They're in our cohort, and 3 of the kids are in geometry. And the point I'd like to make with those kids, 7 of those kids we have not seen once yet in that class. And knowing these kids, and I've worked with them for, this is my 4th year, these are kids that need more than math or English or whatever the credit. These are psychological and mental health issues. These are family structure, life issues. And those are the supports we need for these particular kids before we ever get to credit retrieval.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear that. Thank you for adding that. It's very crucial. All right, Karina, do you want to share?
Sure. I don't have any slides or anything, so it's just going to be me. But our credit retrieval is a lot different. We've been in school the whole time. We never took any time off, but we're a very small school. We have 52 kids in high school. So when I first started, we had 42 kids at the beginning of the year that were failing out of 50, 42. So they decided to do, we have just 4 periods. So they're an hour and 20 minutes long. So they decided that the first half, it would be 3rd and 4th period, they would have credit retrieval. They wouldn't be able to pick something that they wanted to do. This is something that they had to do. They had to pass it. And we almost, every senior, there was 6 kids that was not in this that were not seniors. All the rest of them were seniors, so they had to get these. And now that we're at the second half, I have only 21 kids and only 2 are failing. But we offer Spanish, Latin, 4 math classes, English, and science. And can't do Spanish. I'm getting pretty good at Latin, but if I need help, I can contact the teachers and they will set up time for me to send my student to them. So they also have that one-on-one to where they're helping them with what they need. But I was so overwhelmed when this started. But Nina, hang in there because it does work. And it's just, I see these kids now and it's so awesome. I only work in the mornings now, and I had kids coming to me saying, hey, can I do a 3rd period? Can we do 4th period? And it's like, sorry guys, you got to do, mornings, but it works out great. We have Ingenuity, so I could get online. I can open up their classes. I can have them retake a test. I mean, I can see everything that they're doing. I can email a teacher and say, hey, can you spend time with this kid? He's having problems on, this right here. And I think next year we're going to 7 classes, but I hope they continue having this program during school. And we still have on Thursdays, the academic achievement classes for when they're failing, they just have an F, come in, make it up. And that's from 3:05 to 4:05. But These programs are, you know, an hour and 20 minutes in the morning, and then the second period is another hour and 20 minutes that I get to spend with these kids. And it does, I'm telling you, it makes a huge difference. And that's about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any questions at this moment? Any? All right, if there's no questions, we are going to move on to the next section of the workshop. And we have a second round of breakouts. You're going to be in different rooms than you were before. So you're in rooms with other cohort folks, are in rooms with other like models, and priority, you're in groups with other folks from priority schools. And we have some questions for you guys to guide your conversation. I wanted to check in with you guys. Were any of you able to access the form, the link that I sent out? Marcy, you had said no.
I wonder if you put it in the chat now, because you put it in the chat earlier, but we were already in breakout rooms, so it wasn't in our breakout room chat. So I think you need to, maybe someone else that has more experience with this knows, but I think you need to put it in the chat now.
Okay.
Does anyone else know if that's true or not?
If you
That is true, Marcy.
Okay, thanks, Annie.
If you click on the link now, does that window open to a form? It does?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I am going to be moving you to your rooms. We have half an hour set aside for this. If that feels too long or something, you can come back and let me know, and we can adjust the times. But these are some of the guiding questions. And when we come back, Marcy, if you could scroll to the next slide.
Oh, hang on. We only need one person from the group to respond to the questions, is that right?
Right.
Okay. So choose one recorder to type in the responses.
And then, and then you would choose one person to share out with the group, like a fabulous idea, any questions you have, and any support that we might be able to provide you. So this is going to give you some time to talk more with your peers about credit recovery and emergency waivers and all of those good things. So I'm going to open up the rooms. You should see the prompt at the bottom of the screen, and let me know if you have any problems. Thank you. Looks like a few people are still joining us. I hope that you guys had some good conversations. We had nine, I believe 9 groups, breakout rooms. And so if we could go around really quickly and debrief what you guys heard and what questions you have, any takeaways, that would be helpful. And then Marcy will close us out with talking about year 5 planning and some other additional items. Anyone? Group 1? No one? No brave soul.
Sherry, you want to share it?
Okay, sorry, I forgot we were group 1. One fabulous thing that I heard, I mean, I think the one great thing about GEAR Up is that we all are focusing on what our students need and that we are willing to make adjustments. And we did talk about how it's great to hear from other people, how they run their programs in the past or how they're planning on doing things, because when we have that one student that needs something different, we just have to be able to adapt for them. We didn't have tons of questions. Let me see. We talked about support from GEAR Up. No, I don't have our little thing in front of me. Anybody remember from what we talked about? Jerry, do you remember?
Well, one of the things we talked a lot about the different kinds of credit retrieval programs we have, after school, summer school, in class, whatever. And I think we came to the agreement that it really depends on the individual student, that what works for one doesn't work for some others, that we don't always get the best attendance at any one program, but we're always finding we're meeting the needs of some individual kids one at a time. And it seems like that's what GEAR Up does a lot. A kid that would have been lost otherwise, we're able to retrieve their credits in some way and retrieve them. So I don't think we had an agreement there's any one plan that's going to work for credit retrieval in particular.
Great. Anyone from group 2 want to share some of their takeaways? That was Annie and Jeff, Rosalie, Aaron.
Sure, I can. I think Jerry actually said, echoing what he said, just all that reminder of, like, you know, maybe there is not a real great solution right now. If there was, that'd be fantastic. But we're all just, you know, we're all trying to find our way through all of this, and that reminder of, like, you know, we do the best we can with the time we have, and we do the best we can with the students that we're able to reach, right? And like, I think Rosalie shared her credit recovery program that she's going to start this in May, which was 4 Saturdays. They're going to do some support for, they're going to try to do things kind of in-house. The students don't necessarily feel like they're doing more, they're just filling in the gaps, which is cool. And then all of the rest of us were kind of in this limbo state as far as what next. And we're kind of looking at, those of us with bigger districts are looking at our districts and seeing how we can support with what they're philosophically, how they move us forward. So yeah, I don't know, anybody want to hide? We talked a lot about Maslow too right now. Anybody else wants to add anything, feel free.
Yeah, I get that. What about room 3? This was Buffy's group. It looks like Nina, Brian, Nicole, Adrian, Amy.
I'll go.
Okay.
So we talked a lot about just needing more capable adults to help with credit retrieval, and really talking about, like, the question about community and how the community is helping. That was one thing that really stuck out to us, is because none of us had anything like that. And what we thought, first off, we didn't think our district would allow non-school district employees to help with credit retrieval, but then thinking about retired teachers and substitutes, previous GEAR Up employees, that those people might be the people that we could bring into the district or utilize for credit retrieval. And then what we would want from WASAC staff is more funding for those people, because as much as we would love for them to volunteer, we don't think that they would. So we'd have to pay them somehow.
Thank you.
So Allison, just a clarification, are you talking about for summer school or for right now?
Both.
Just okay. Overall. Okay. So we talked earlier about supplemental funding for summer programs. If there's a need for supplemental funding to do something short term, like between now and June, and you don't think you can cover that, I was sharing in the group I was in, I was really pleasantly surprised at how low the cost is for Faith's pilot program. It was not expensive to have a few people come in and help with credit recovery. So if there's a need that you don't have funds for currently and would like to try something before the end of the year, please let me know.
Thank you, Marcy. What about room 4? This was Kelly Keeney was in this group with Kipton and Stephanie and Faith, Carrie, Jen.
So we kind of touched upon similar things. Some things we did talk about was, and I guess I'll summarize in a different way, but our school's been talking about the mastery credit, and someone did point out, I think that might both be most related to this COVID time, but there is competency credit. So in addition to just earning credit, there are ways for, like East Valley, I forgot, we have advisory, they get a quarter credit. So if they pass advisory, that's a credit of an elective credit. So and counselors know these better, but there's other ways they can get credits, based upon SAT scores and stuff like that. So maybe at some point, obviously your counselors know that, but if you're able to get informed, then you can target those who actually might need to take those. But there's a lot, our school's still discussing that because there's state laws around that, then your individual districts decide those, but there's other ways basically to get credit recovery besides just taking classes. Rogers brought up, like in his case, just the number of Fs, and like they can't physically accommodate that. So he's hoping that maybe their administration does something with a magic wand. I'll use my words, not his. But some other ways for credit recovery. We talked about, I think, virtual versus in person, even though most of these are some sort of online program with a facilitator or teacher or whatever, that if you can have them, like here at our example, if you can have them at the school doing it with a person around, it's much more successful than them doing it on their own, even though it's the same thing. So I'm hoping, I think we are, that we go back to, yeah, it's online, but you come to the school to do it. I think we all agreed that, yeah, that's helpful when you can do it in person or have a viable connect. Because some people talked about, they also used to provide the teachers or facilitators, but I guess Ingenuity now does. Sometimes there's not that connection, or it's not a facilitator they would prefer. So those are some of the struggles. I would say that's true here too. There's some who are very good at that and some who just check the box. Yep, the kid's on, they're not. I called home, they don't make it, they're out, instead of, for lack of better words, maybe going that extra mile. Where are you? And last year I paid for something, and it took a lot of money and resources to help a small students go that extra mile. But so like who's kind of facilitating that learning process, or community resources we talked about, none of us really had options. We kind of asked what those are, or possibilities, and Kelly kind of told us to, think creatively, especially around maybe getting incentives that we couldn't get or getting more of, that places are willing to donate free stuff to kids who pass a class or get a credit. So that's about it. I don't know if anyone else in the group wants to add.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, it does. It does sound like, the relationship, this mentoring kind of informal, formal aspect of tutoring and credit retrieval, all of that plays a role in supporting the student. Even though technology allows us to do these things, virtually, that the importance of human connection can't really be overlooked. So thank you for sharing that. Room 5, we have like Lisa, Brittany, Garrett. Room 5 wanna?
I can share a little bit just from my perspective.
Okay.
I don't have the notes in front of me,
That's
But
okay.
I think the challenge is that so many of us in that group are in various roles, and then that doesn't it doesn't include what type of schools we're in, our districts, the way we're operating. So we're back full time, and I don't have any credit retrievals in place at this time, and we have, but we're operating different, and some of them just went back to being in the building, and part virtual and part in school. And then some of them are offering additional resources for online tutoring and, so I think we're just all in different capacities and different places with everything. So we're trying to manage where we are and the protocols of the district.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany. I was talking and my microphone was off.
Oh, go ahead.
The one question we had too, as I typed it out from what I remember, was we're just not sure what kids are going to show up for this summer. Lisa said her district is, and I don't know if this is in the past, or at least this summer, is taking the summer off and not doing anything in the summer because kids kind of need a break. And as Dave was talking, like, we have a lot of Fs, so I'd be nervous to take the summer off, but I'm also unsure how many kids are going to show up. They just feel like they need a break and want to be done for a bit. So that was kind of the big question, is what are kids really going to do, whether it's online or in person or otherwise?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see both seem possible, and I think it might vary across the state too, and kid to kid, because I could see kids being completely burnt out. And so thank you for sharing.
I could share a little bit more, Beth.
Okay.
And then what's one way that WASAC staff can help? And I'm sorry, my voice is raspy, but so Marcy's been great. I started out in a capacity where I was tutoring like algebra and geometry and English and certain subjects, but now we're in electives. So I think that the flexibility of us going where the need is, where the students of need are, is really helpful for flexibility on our part, knowing where we're supposed to provide that extra support. And then I was just thinking, we don't really have resources in the area for tutoring, but we may have some resources for counseling. And I think that that's what our students need and what our district and school is lacking. We don't have a way to provide counseling. So I might send Marcy an email about, can I get resources and touch in with a local counseling center to maybe have somebody come in 1 or 2 days a week and have students sign up for slots of time, because I think that they need somebody to talk to. And at school, they're focused on academics, but they can't release what's going on in their lives.
So needing mental health resources.
Yeah, that's what I think we need right now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to our priority schools. We have room 6. It has Lisa and Sharon, Christina, Allison.
I can go ahead and kind of, I guess, talk for the group. So I think the hardest thing, well, starting off, we all kind of have some online options. We all have some credit retrieval things going on in a variety of different ways. Most of us sounded like with our online options and things is that students can do this, any time of day. But one thing that makes it hard then is being able to really touch base with those students and keep encouraging them. So even when we looked at kind of the last question on how can the staff help, and I think I put down, even it was one of our answers, like, well, if you have a magic wand that we can wave that would encourage the students, give them more stamina to push through and be able to complete their classes they haven't passed along with the ones that they're in now, that would be amazing in that way. So I think that's hard. And as we're hearing, people talk about, not knowing what summer is going to look like because we just don't know who's going to show up, who's going to be able to kind of push through, continue on. That was the same with ours. So, I mean, I think one of our biggest questions is we don't know quite how summer is going to look, and we can plan for all these things, and we just can really hope and try to support the kids that do show up as much as possible. So.
Thank you. Let's see, we have The next room had room 7 was Megan and Rachel. Donna.
So our group all did pretty much the same thing, the online credit recovery and during school time. So each student who is failing and doing credit recovery is given a class period to do that. It's built into their schedule. And then after that, staff will check in, follow up with the student, but the student does need to take some initiative to actually go through the coursework themselves. We can't do it for them. We didn't really have too many questions.
Okay.
So.
Room 8, this is the last room. It had Diva, Maureen, Renee, that group. You guys want to share out? Anne?
Pretty good group, you guys. I did the writing, so it seems like someone else could do the talking. But, okay, so the best idea we had, and this is totally from my point of view and my point of view alone, is 2 of the schools one hires college students, because they're all remote right now, to come in and help the students, because they've had the same exact classes, maybe a year or 2 previous, same teacher. They know it all. And at the same time, they're closer in age, probably even have a relationship in our little priority schools. So, so they have the relationship, they have the knowledge, and they're there and willing. The other school hired running start students, which for where we're located is a lot easier to get to because the college students are 30 miles away. So I just thought, I'm writing a revision. And that was my fabulous idea. If anyone else wants to add anything, they can.
I think that's a great idea. Hiring your own school district running start students to provide tutoring academic support to your students. Is that what you're referencing?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Hiring
allowable.
them. They've had the classes, so they know the stuff. They know the teacher, and they have the relationship, which I think is equal to the knowledge. So,
yep, you can pay students minimum wage, and you can hire them beyond the school day. So they can't help while they're supposed to be in class, but they can help beyond the school day.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
And minimum wage is now 15, 13. Our high school minimum wage the same?
It's 13. Yeah, it's 13 something. We'd have to look it up. Buffy probably knows it.
Okay, thank you.
One resource that I wanted to mention, and I included it in the bulletin, which you'll get this week still, is there are a large number of free professional development opportunities by very reputable entities that are coming up this spring and summer. For example, OSPI and Attendance Work is putting on a webinar series on engaging youth and around attendance, and it's specifically for school teams. And it's a 3-part series. I think each session is 90 minutes. And so you'll see some additional events that are coming up this spring. What was the other one? Oh, and NCAN is also hosting a Spring Institute for free, and it's also a 3-part series. So they're broken into small digestible chunks versus like a whole conference. So a lot of these opportunities, again, are free, and again, OSPI is really working with Attendance Work to create training around engagement and attendance. So it's in the bulletin, and it's just one more resource to add to your toolkit.
Okay, is it my turn?
Yeah, now Marcy's going to talk about year 5 planning.
All right, it's coming up fast. I can't believe we're already looking at year 5. So overall, I think the consensus was last year that folks really liked how we managed year 4 planning. So the webinar and then the individual school conferences to finalize the plan. So if you weren't here for that process last year, I can catch you up later, but I think everyone on here today was a part of that experience. So we really liked it. We thought the plans came out better or clearer, I will say, than maybe previously, and having that one-on-one time with you all was very helpful for my team as well. So we're going to do the same thing again. So the webinar will be on May 5th. We will do a separate cohort version and a separate priority version. So those invites have already been sent out. You've probably already registered for it. Please remember that all paid Gear Up staff are required to attend. That wouldn't be people that are like just an after school tutor or something else and aren't involved in other parts of the program, but it would be your Gear Up coordinators, your graduation specialists, Gear Up directors, kind of all the usuals, and at least one building administrator who is the lead for your Gear Up program. That is absolutely required. We've taken it from a 2-day meeting to about a 2 or 3 hour meeting. So we hope that that's completely reasonable, even with how busy May can be for folks. So as I said, the registration has gone out. My goal is to have the budget and work plan templates out to you by May 4th. So not a lot ahead of time, but prior to the meeting. Although Dave wants me to make tons of changes, so we'll see how that goes. And so they may look a little different. And then I'd really like some feedback on this. Normally we say they're due June 30th, but I'm hoping that we can get them all in by June 11th so that we can finish all of the school meetings by the end of June. So that we're not getting into July and still needing to do those. You should also know that that is a flexible deadline. So if you tell me there's no way I can get it to you by June 11th, that's okay, as long as you let me know ahead of time. But we have held space in our calendars for that period of June 14th to the 29th to go through those reviews with you. So sometime in the next week or so, Kelly will be contacting coordinators to find a time for your meeting. So if you know, oh, I'm not going to have it by June 11th, so I don't want the June 14th meeting, keep that in mind. But your administrator and your Gear Up coordinator and or director will need to be a part of that meeting. So I don't need everyone to be, sorry, I'm getting, oh, there we go. I don't need everyone to be in that meeting, but at a minimum, the coordinator or director and the administrator, so we can go through that. If you want to include others in that meeting, you absolutely can.
Marcy?
Yeah.
I noticed a typo. The May meeting is actually May 4th. I think with the year 5, I think that it somehow, you know, magically. So it's a Tuesday. It's correct in the bulletin. It's 9 to 11 for cohort, 1 to 3 for priority on May 4th.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
All right, so we'll correct. Sorry. We'll correct that before we send this out then. So May 4th, and it looks like other folks caught that.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, so May 4th, which means is a Tuesday. So maybe if I'm doing a really great job, I'll get the templates out and the budget out by Friday before that. I'll work toward that goal. But you'll have it before the meeting. So I don't know yet how much money you're going to get for next year. It probably won't be less than you got this year. probably be pretty similar, but we're still working on that to see how we're doing overall with spending. I think that's everything I want to say about that. Is anybody freaked out by the June 11th deadline? I would love to know, like right now, if you think that's unreasonable. I see at least one person nodding that is not a good plan.
Mind saying something. I think the only thing that freaks me out when I see that is just where my building's at. Like, how much can I get answered by June 11th?
Yeah.
That's the only thing. So I think, like, you know, this year was kind of nice because we were a little flexible with things, and feels like next year might be kind of the same thing. I don't even know what our day is going to look like next year still.
Yeah. So it's way more important to me that you have a good plan than a finished plan, right? Like, so if you need more time, it is completely okay. Just know that I might not be able to get your review done by the end of June if that's the option you choose. So we will absolutely be flexible with this. So yeah, just let us know what you need. And if it's too hard to get it done by then, it's completely fine.
And I think Marcy's, oh, sorry, Rosalie.
Oh, go ahead, Aaliyah.
Similar to that is just not knowing what the school day is going to look like next year. Are we allowed to kind of have those TBD funds in there like we did this year and kind of make that plan as we go?
Absolutely. So TBD funds will be, absolutely, you can do that. So like I said, I really want to know that what you've planned feels really solid to you, and don't just put placeholders in there that you think you might do but aren't really even sure at all. So the plans will need to stay flexible really for the next couple of years, because, you know, we don't know what next year is going to be like. I'd like to think that we're all back and in person and, you know, we're back to normal, but we don't know that. So I encourage you to just really think about what do you know you can do, whether you're virtual or hybrid or fully in person. And then if you need to leave some blanks in there, it's going to be okay. And we'll just monitor that and make adjustments through the year.
Awesome. Thank you.
Rosalie, did you want to say something else?
Yes, I was just going to say thank you for pointing out that you would be awarding the same amount, because my concern is I'm sure we're not the only school that has a lower enrollment. We lost students who went to other virtual programs that we're hoping that will be coming back next year. So I know you usually pull those numbers from CEDARS, but you know, those wouldn't be accurate as to what we're hoping we would see in the fall.
Okay. So I will check with you all about your enrollment projections. Then that's really good feedback for me. And make sure that we're accommodating for what you expect and not just what April or May enrollment looks like. Just making myself a note. Okay, any other comments about that? So again, if your admin person isn't on here today, make sure you're talking to them about that schedule really soon. Then the last thing is our August workshop we had originally set up as because we canceled last year. The Icicle Inn carried over our contract to this year, hoping we could go back. And so those dates would be August 16th and 17th. And of course, we're going to follow all state recommended guidance before we even consider coming back in person. And when Beth sends out the evaluation for today, there will be a question about how you feel about coming back in person for a workshop. So please make sure you answer the survey about today's session so we have that information, because, you know, we want to respect everyone's comfort level with travel and being in person. I will say that we have checked with the Icicle Inn about the space. And right now, with our kind of our normal numbers, it would be at 50% capacity of that room. So, so we're just monitoring all of that, and you know, want to be respectful of the space and everyone's safety and health. So that evaluation will come out soon. Beth, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I threw the link up in the chat box, but I'll follow up with an email as well.
Okay, All right, I know we're at time, but I just want to check in if any other Gear Up staff have anything to share for the day. Okay. And we have COVID babies and COVID puppies, and it's all very exciting. I think we have at least 2 babies coming this year. We're very excited about that. Human ones, not just puppy ones. All right, so the final slide, last burning questions. I think we'll skip the plus EBI just because we are at time. Please fill out your evaluation and let us know what you thought about today. Anything else from you, Beth?
No, I just want to say thank you. I know that this year's been stressful, and I just want to say how much I appreciate everything that you do on behalf of the students and their families and community and everything. I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, ditto all of that. You guys are doing amazing work in a very difficult year. So thank you for all you're doing. Thanks for showing up today. It's sunny in Western Washington. It's a beautiful day. So stay well, and we will see you in May. May the 4th.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.